drumstick or the mallet or the hand, regardless of what you're playing, if it's the easiest thing in the world up to the most complex thing, it's only going to do one of three possible things. And you can tell I'm speaking in very broad ideas here, but I think it bears some truth. So I found that the drumstick, or your hand, can do one of three possible things. It could start at a given height and return to the height where it began. Full stroke. It can start at a certain height, and after it plays, it can remain in a lower position or rebound to a lower position from where it started. Downstroke. And then it can do the opposite. It can start at a lower height, and then after playing can rise to some kind of higher height. And in my playing, I'm hard-pressed to find any other strokes that do not fit into those three broad categories. Now, of course, I'm speaking in a very broad context here in terms of, well, how high does it come up, how low is low. I leave that more up to you in your own specific techniques, your own specific pieces of music which you're working on. But in general, I find that my playing, my stick is going to fall into one of those three categories. There's a fourth type of stroke some people talk about called a tap stroke. How many of you guys have heard that or familiar with that? For me, well, we talk about a tap stroke. It's generally differentiated from a higher note, starts lower, plays like this. Instead of calling that a tap stroke, if you had to classify this into one of my three categories, what would that actually be? A full stroke. It's a low full stroke, but it's coming back to that original height. And for me, especially at softer playing and the lower dynamics, in order to maintain the clarity and quality of sound that I want, it really helps me to think about that as a full stroke. I'm coming back to where I started, but I still need to use the same velocity and the same integrity of sound as I would at a louder dynamic. And so let's move on into the first category. I know we don't have a lot of time this morning, but we'll start by talking about the full stroke, and I hope that some of you guys, especially some of you younger guys, brought your drumsticks. I have three beautiful new drum pads from Tap Space up here, which I'd love to have you guys come up and play on. And it's not a master class. I won't be critiquing you or anything like that. It would just be cool to get some folks up here and have them playing along with me. So as I'm talking, try to pull your drumsticks out of your bag or muster your courage or something like that. The full stroke, I like to set up when I'm playing a full stroke from the height from where I'm going to be playing. I know oftentimes we're taught the starting position being here. My starting position is wherever that first note is going to be. So if I'm, say, playing at forte, I begin in the starting position of where that first note is going to be. I don't start down here and then lift for two reasons. One, my timing. I have to account for additional time to lift up. Also, if I want consistent dynamics, and I start from here, and then I lift up again, well, was that first note, was it from here, was it from here, was it from here? If I can just move very quickly from the height where I started, I'm going to be able to maintain a much more even dynamic. So I don't incorporate any kind of prep stroke. And also, the hand that is not playing stays in the starting position. This is very similar to how a lot of people teach keyboard percussion. So for example, if I'm playing forte on one hand, my left hand is going to stay in that starting position for two reasons. One, there's no reason, if that left hand is going to eventually have to play from here, there's no reason for it to be anywhere other than here, right? Or else we're going to have to account for some kind of prep stroke, something that's going to get in the way of timing, something that could potentially get in the way of dynamic balance. So the second reason for that, and this is especially applicable for younger players or for those of you who are teaching younger players, the hand that's not playing can serve as a measure for the hand that is playing. So that way, as my right hand is playing, the left hand's right there in place to make sure when it comes back, I'm getting a true full stroke. I'm not stopping it too low, I'm not letting it fly back on me. So that's a really good visual cue, not only as a teacher, but something you can use for your students to help them teach themselves and to self-assess.